You're in a dark room, perfectly safe. Door locked, no threat anywhere. And something in your chest is pulling tight anyway. Your eyes keep moving to corners. Your breathing is shallow. You don't know why. Nothing is there. Nothing has been there. And yet the feeling won't leave. That's not anxiety. That's not weakness. That's a system 3 million years old running exactly as designed. Your brain didn't build these fears for you. It built them for something that lived in open grassland, slept in trees, and had a 1 in 3 chance of getting eaten before it turned 30. That creature is gone. The fears aren't. They've been riding along inside every human skull since before our species had a name. And understanding where they came from changes everything about why you feel what you feel. Take the dark. Most people assume fear of darkness is irrational. It isn't. It never was. For the vast majority of human prehistory, darkness was genuinely lethal. Not metaphorically, literally. The cave lion hunted at night. The leopard hunted at night. The cave hyena, with a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch, operated in packs of 20 or more after sundown. Human night vision is catastrophically poor by comparison. Our pupils dilate only so far. Our rod cells need several minutes to adjust. In those minutes, something else already knew exactly where you were. Every ancestor who wasn't afraid of the dark got removed from the gene pool, swiftly. The ones who felt that chest-tightening dread when the light faded, stayed close to fire, stayed alive, and eventually became you. Fear of darkness isn't irrational. It's inherited memory from every night that ended badly. The fear of heights works the same way. Not the rational caution of a construction worker. The sudden vertigo standing at a second-floor window. The involuntary stomach drop looking over a balcony railing when there's a perfectly solid barrier between you and the ground. Researchers call it the visual cliff response. Infants display it before anyone teaches them to. Crawl them toward a glass floor with a drop beneath it and they stop. No instruction needed. No prior fall. Monkeys show the same response. Chimpanzees show it more intensely, because the ancestors who lacked that response walked off cliffs. They fell from trees. They slipped from rocky ledges hunting ibex in the Atlas Mountains 300,000 years ago. One misstep and no descendants. The fear arrived first. The reasoning came much later. Spiders. One of the most statistically harmless fears in the modern world, and one of the most pervasive. Around 6% of the global population has clinical arachnophobia. Many more have milder versions. The spider you see in a corner of your bathroom is almost certainly harmless. Your nervous system doesn't care. It's registering 8 legs, rapid unpredictable movement, and a size small enough to hide anywhere. These were real threats once. The black widow, the brown recluse, the funnel web spider of Australia. Venom that caused tissue necrosis, paralysis, death within hours. And there was no antivenin, no hospital, just infection spreading through a body that couldn't fight it. The brain learned to spot them fast and react fast. That learning is still running. The spider in the bathroom triggers the same cascade. Then there's the fear of strangers. Not people you know, people you don't. A face you can't read, motivations you can't predict, intentions that haven't declared themselves. Most people experience this mildly, a vague unease around someone unfamiliar in an otherwise empty space. It seems antisocial. It seems like prejudice dressed up as instinct. But it has a mechanism. For the majority of human prehistory, you knew everyone. Your band had roughly 20 to 50 people. Anyone outside that band was a potential competitor for resources, a potential raider, a genuine threat. Dmanisi, Georgia, 1.8 million years ago. Early human fossils found together. Same site. Groups that didn't protect their own from outsiders didn't survive long enough to pass anything forward. The wariness that remains now is the echo of that pressure. Loud, sudden noises. The startle reflex kicks in before conscious processing begins. A car backfires on the street and your body is already braced before your brain has identified the sound as harmless. This is not a malfunction. The acoustic startle response originates in the brainstem, one of the oldest structures in the human nervous system. It doesn't run through the cortex first. It bypasses deliberate thought entirely, because deliberate thought is slow, and when a 600-pound Smilodon fatalis exploded from tall grass at 30 miles per hour, there was no time for deliberate thought. The body had to move before the mind had finished processing. The animals that startled survived. The calm ones didn't. The reflex is still there. Firing in traffic, firing at slammed doors, firing every time the world makes a sound it didn't announce. Being watched. The creeping sensation of eyes on the back of your neck when no one is visibly looking. Hypervigilance to social attention. Most people assume this is vanity or social anxiety. It's neither. Predators watch before they strike. They assess distance, angle, timing. An early human who could detect the feeling of being watched, even without visual confirmation, got 1 extra second of response time. Sometimes that was enough. The superior colliculus, a structure deep in the midbrain, processes gaze direction and peripheral motion at a speed faster than conscious vision. It was scanning for predators long before it was scanning for social judgment. The feeling that someone is watching you is often accurate. The brain is catching something your conscious attention missed. Contamination fear. Disgust at spoiled food, at certain textures, at anything that looks like it might carry disease or rot. This one has a name: behavioral immunology. The idea is straightforward. Before germ theory, before antibiotics, before any understanding of pathogen transmission, the organisms that survived weren't necessarily the strongest. They were the ones that instinctively avoided infected tissue, contaminated water, anything that smelled wrong. The Yersinia pestis bacterium, the pathogen behind bubonic plague, spread in part because human disgust responses weren't calibrated for flea-transmitted disease. But pathogens carried in rotting meat, in stagnant water, invisible mold, those triggered avoidance behavior that worked. That disgust response saved lives for 3 million years. It's why certain textures trigger nausea in people who have never been harmed by them. Social rejection, the pain of being excluded, cut off, ostracized. Most people treat this as an emotional weakness. Modern culture tells you to be independent, to not care what others think. But the brain doesn't process social exclusion differently from physical pain. Neuroimaging shows the same regions activating. The anterior cingulate cortex lights up for both. This isn't metaphorical overlap, it's the same circuitry. Because for the vast majority of human existence, rejection from the group meant death. Not emotional pain, literal death. No solo human survived the Pleistocene alone. No lone individual outran a cave hyena, kept fire going through a winter storm, fought off a short-faced bear, and found enough food without assistance. Removal from the group was a death sentence. The brain learned to treat it like one. It still does. The fear of being buried alive is statistically rare as an actual event, and yet extraordinarily common as a fear. Claustrophobia more broadly affects roughly 12% of people to a clinically significant degree. Tight spaces, enclosed rooms, the sensation of walls close on all sides. This traces back further than predators. It traces to structural collapse. Cave shelters were common. Cave shelters also collapsed. Rocks shifted, passages narrowed after rains. An early human trapped in a collapsed shelter was not going to be rescued. The fear of enclosure, of diminishing space, of no clear exit, is the fear of entombment before entombment was a word. The brain maps exits automatically. Watch where your eyes go when you enter an unfamiliar room. That's not a habit. That's ancient architecture. The sensation of falling just before sleep, hypnic jerks, the sudden muscle spasm that snaps you awake the moment you begin to drift. Research suggests several possible mechanisms. One involves the brain misinterpreting the muscle relaxation of sleep onset as a sign of falling from a tree branch. Arboreal sleeping, sleeping in trees to avoid ground predators, was common in early hominids. The drop in muscle tone that begins sleep would have occasionally corresponded to actual loss of grip. A brain that jolted itself awake at that sensation kept its owner from a 20-foot fall onto hard ground. Most people experience hypnic jerks as unsettling but harmless. The brain doesn't know you're in a bed. It's checking for the branch. These fears aren't signs of a broken nervous system. They're receipts, proof of every generation that made it through something that should have killed them. The darkness, the heights, the stranger at the edge of the firelight. None of it disappeared when the threats did. The brain doesn't take things off the list just because civilization arrived. It takes thousands of generations to remove a fear response. The saber-tooth has been gone for 10,000 years, and the architecture it built is still running, still scanning, still sending signals into a skull that has no idea why it's afraid of a perfectly harmless corner of a perfectly safe room. That's what humans